Good evening. Welcome to Monday Night Mashup. I'm Katie Freeman.
And I'm Emma Mondo.
Our lead story tonight, a new development in the protests of the death of Keith Lamont Scott. Following the release of the police body cam video that captured the shooting, Governor Pat McCrory signed legislation that would block the release of police body cam or dashboard footage to the public. The law was signed last week and will go into effect on October 1st. This new law has faced major backlash from critics, including the ACCU, American Civil Liberties Union, who claim that it threatens transparency. Peaceful protests are still continuing in the city, including one yesterday at the Panthers-Vikings football game. I know that being from just outside of Charlotte, the protests have definitely expanded to suburbs and the outskirts of the city, and it's becoming a growing issue there.
Yeah, for sure. I have family that works in uptown Charlotte, and they've seen it firsthand, so it's definitely a scary thing to go through, but I think Pat McCrory's handling it very well.
Students who are watching this, if you have friends that go to UNC Charlotte, just make sure they're staying safe and staying smart.
Absolutely. Are you still on the fence about how you're going to cast your vote in November? Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump will take the stage tonight for the first of 3 presidential debates. The candidates will discuss their stances on issues important to voters. You can watch the debates on all major networks and leading cable news channels at 9 p.m. tonight.
Prices of the life-saving drug EpiPen have skyrocketed to over $600, a 400% increase from 2009. The CEO of pharmaceutical company Mylan appeared before Congress this week in an attempt to justify the price hike. Lawmakers found it hard to believe that the company profits just $50 per pen when the CEO received almost $19 million just last year. For the last 5 years, Mylan has had the second highest executive compensation in the entire drug industry. To help compensate for the expensive increase, eligible patients can receive the My EpiPen Savings Card, saving you up to $300. Now, it says eligible people, but what qualifies someone as eligible?
Honestly, I think if you have the qualifications to receive this EpiPen, receive the savings for it, I think it's a great option. I think it's something that can definitely be useful in the future for people who need EpiPens.
I definitely just think there's more information that needs to be released on how you receive the savings card. Is there a form? Is there an application? Who reviews these applications? It just needs to be looked at very carefully.
Very true. Well, fall is here, but is fall in the air? News 4 Miller's Hyatt has your full forecast for the week.
Welcome back. My name is Miller Hyatt with your weather forecast. We're first going to look at the tropics. Looks like we have some potential development right now near the Caribbean Sea, and right now it's not looking that healthy, but once it gets towards Cuba, it looks like it could strengthen into a tropical storm, and we'll definitely keep you posted on that. So let's look at the 7-day forecast now. You can see that in the next couple of days, it's definitely going to be pretty warm outside and some storms in the 80s. But by the time we get in the middle part of the week, fall is definitely going to arrive with 70s by Friday, and game day is looking beautiful in the 80s. And if you look down here, the 50s for lows. So that's going to be pretty cool. Might want to bring a jacket. Now, that's all I have for the weather. Nicole Dennis has your sports report when we return.
The women's soccer team managed to tame the Kentucky Wildcats on Sunday. The number 4 Gamecocks extended their undefeated record with a 3-0 victory. USC left the first half scoreless, but finished the game with goals from Sophie Groff, Kaylee Kurtz, and Lindsay Lane. This is only the second time in history the team has had a double-digit winning streak. The USC men's soccer team was also at home this weekend, taking on the Georgia State Panthers. The Gamecocks gained a 3-0 lead with goals from Cody Millard, Luca Mayer, and Ben Davidson. Georgia State would score their first goal in the 90th minute. Although the comeback was just a little too late, USC would go on to win their 4th straight win by a score of 3-1 Saturday evening. And just up the road in Blythewood, another Gamecock team kicked off its season with a win. The South Carolina equestrian team won its first game against 5th-ranked Baylor University by a score of 12-6. With the victory, South Carolina has now won 2 straight games against top 5 opponents dating back to last year. And pro sports saw a tragic day yesterday, losing an old legend and a young phenomenon. It began when Miami Marlins ace pitcher Jose Fernandez passed away in a tragic boating accident just off the coast of Florida. His accidental death was mourned around the baseball world, and the Marlins canceled their game against the Atlanta Braves in his honor. Later in the day, tragedy struck again when 87-year-old Arnold Palmer passed away in Pittsburgh. According to officials, he died due to a heart complication. Their deaths both met with grief and respect in the press and on social media. Despite the national stories of police shootings, officers in the Midlands are hoping to reach out to the community. That's next.
This week, the Columbia Police Department is hoping to bridge the gap between law enforcement and the communities they serve. They will be hosting their Coffee with a Cop event, where members of the public can meet freely with officers to discuss important topics. The breakfast event will be on Wednesday from 8 until 10 a.m. at the Chick-fil-A in 5 Points. And how do you think this will really help foster community relations between the people in the area and the police department?
So last week there was a state of emergency forum and the chief deputy was there, so I feel like people got to ask questions that they need to answer. So I feel like the one-on-one experience will allow people to voice their opinions to cops because they're the ones doing the jobs.
I think this will be a great continuation of that event. I mean, you really need to continue doing things like this to promote good relations. You can't just have it as a one-time thing.
Absolutely. Do you think that this is a smart idea for the Columbia Police Department and our community here, Miller?
Yes, I think it's very good, and for everyone to come together and come to a solution to what is the problem.
Now, do you think the public will be able to ask their questions comfortably, or do you think they'll be intimidated by the authority figures?
Well, I think that if everyone just agrees on some things, then I think it'll just roll and it'll all come together at once.
For sure.
I would agree.
All right, well, that's all we have time for this edition of Monday Night Mashup. We'll see you next week, and for more news updates, be sure to follow us on Twitter at SGTV News 4. Thanks for joining us, and have a good week.
For many college students, it's their first opportunity to vote
Into clinical training.
So the white coat